Hello and welcome back to Coding for Success. In the last video, we did our folder structure for the dog shelter project. In this video, we're going to start coding the HTML for this Navbar up here. Let's get started. So let's open up our code editor. And so first, let's start off by making our HTML structure. We learned this before, but I will talk through it once more. We start off with the big HTML tag, and now in here we're going to make our structure. We're going to have our head, we're going to have our body, and our footer. Now that we have our structure, let's start coding in the body. So let's start off by making our header. The tag is a semantic element, as we learned previously, and it is simply just header. Now in here, we're going to need a div, and this div will be for our logo. Now, since we're going to be using CSS in this project, I'm going to start giving my HTML class names so it's easier to keep track of what I have and what I don't have. So I'm going to give this div a class of logo, and I'm going to give this header a class of header. Now inside of this div, I'm going to need one more div, and I'm going to give it a class of logo icon. And inside of here, I'm going to have this little image of a house and a dog. So let's insert that right now by doing image source. We'll go images, and it should be dog house. Let's open it up and see what we have so far. We have our little doghouse icon. As you can see, it's a lot bigger than what it is here, but that's okay. We're going to make it smaller once we get the rest of our code all settled. The last thing we need here in the logo is the text. And the text says dog shelter, so that's all we need to write. Let's make it an H1. And let's give it a class of logo text. And you know what, since we're not using the CSS right now, I will make that tab smaller so that we can better see the HTML. So now we finished the logo. So now let's start working on the rest of our navbar, which is these links over here. Okay, so to start that, we're going to need to make our nav container. And we're going to give it a class of nav links. And in here, we're going to have our 4 links. We start with a, href, and then in here, we're going to have the location that we want our link to go to. And then we need our anchor text. I'm just going to copy and paste this 3 more times. And I'm going to change it. We have get involved, ops, and contact. And now we have to give these classes. So all of these links have the class of nav link. And before you say anything, nav link is different than nav links. So now I'm just going to paste those in. And if we take a look, we have our links and our logo. Obviously, we still need to style it so that it comes out looking nice and streamlined like this, but it's a good start. So before we can style it, we have to link our style sheet to our HTML. And so to do that, we have to go in the head, and we have to do link to link them. Rel is relation, so it's a style sheet. And the source is style.css. Now that should be linked, so we can start styling. So here I am in my CSS. So let's get started with styling the header. So first, let's grab it with .header. Let's give it a background color. And the color is like a gray color. Like that. And then we have to give the text a color. We're going to give it a white color. We need to give it some padding so it has some space. And don't forget your units. And let's take a look. Okay, so we have the gray and we have the white text. So we're getting there. I think we also need to remove the padding around the outside, so let's do that as well. We do that by simply using a star and doing padding 0, margin 0, and we also need to do box sizing border box. Now you can see it fills up the whole space. Let's keep going. Let's give it a display of flex. And what display flex does is, instead of everything showing up vertically, stuff shows up horizontally now. So you'll see it's in a horizontal line. Now we need to give everything some space. So let's do justify content space between. And align items center. Okay, as you can see, that worked. It's not so obvious on the image because it's still really big, but let's change that right now. So we're going to grab our logo. We're going to display this as flex as well, so that the text and the image display side by side. And we're going to align everything center again. Then we're going to give it some margin. So let's give it some margin left specifically, about 30 pixels, and then let's give it some padding as well. And for padding, when I put the values like this with a space, the first value is top and bottom, and the second value is left and right. Same for up here. So there we go, now it's all flex aligned. So now let's make it smaller. So to do that, we're going to go into logo icon. If you don't remember, logo icon is the image. And we're also going to go ahead and grab image as well, so that it specifically changes the height of the image. So let's give it a width of 60 pixels. And that should change the size. Yep, there we go. Let's make it a little bit bigger. Let's give it some margin right. And let's give it a line height so that everything's aligned. Okay, it looks good. Let's just change the font size. And there we go. So now we need to deal with the links. As you can see, they're not the same. So let's start off by grabbing .nav links. So we don't want any text decorations, so let's get rid of that. We want the color of the text to be white. We want a bigger font size. We need a lot of padding for this, so let's give it 15 pixels by 15, or let's do 14 by 16. Then we have to display it as a block. And let's look. So I accidentally put an S, so make sure you don't do that. And there you go. Oh, I'm sorry, we don't need display block here. There we go. It's looking pretty good. So for nav links, here we need to put a display flex, not block. And then we need to give it a margin. And let's give it a gap of 0. I don't think it needs that much. I think the last thing we need here is to change the color on hover. So we want to keep the color white, but we want the background color to become a darker gray. So let's just do background color. And then I have the RGB. And there we go. Now I notice there's a little bit of a slower effect. So we can do that easily by going to the parent element and doing transition, color, and 0.4. So here we go, we have our navbar. Great job, and I'll see you in the next video.